The fans wanted a larger watch and Google delivered. My favorite releases are when the companies listen to their customers and actually release what they want. And in this case, the Pixel Watch 3 45mm is the answer that the customers were asking for. Let's take a look at the Pixel Watch 3 45mm, or what probably could have been called the Pixel Watch 3 XL. Starting with the design and the build quality, the Pixel Watch 3 is largely unchanged from the original Pixel Watch and the Watch 2. The major difference obviously being the size at 45mm versus the 41mm that the previous generations were stuck to. Of course, the Watch 3 still has a 41mm version if you want it, but the fact that there's two sizes is beneficial, I think, for the customers. Just like the Pixel Watches before, it's a dome design, and it gives it a very nice look, very sleek, because the glass curves over the edge, so it looks like a single piece of material. And the watch bands themselves connect in a very sleek way and kind of make it seem like a single piece when you're not looking at it too closely. One of the design features that I really like about the Pixel watches is that it's round, so it looks more like a traditional watch when you're wearing it out and about. But just the fact that it's a traditional shape lets it blend in nicely with the other watches out there. With the 45mm, you get three color options. One is polished silver, the other one is matte hazel, and then matte black. I got the matte hazel version. It's mainly just a mid-gray, really. With the 41mm, you get an additional bands option, but basically you still have three colors when it comes to the body itself. You have polished silver, you have matte black, and then you have a gold champagne. And in terms of the build quality, there are two major parts really. It's the body, which is aluminum, which is fine because that's kind of like the standard of watches nowadays. You do have some options with titanium, but those are going to be the more premium options. And the second material is going to be the glass dome. So I have read a lot that you can't really fix a glass dome if it cracks or something, so you have to get a replacement. You have to buy a replacement. I'm not 100% sure, and I haven't gone through that process because I've been lucky enough to not have cracked my screen yet. Hopefully it never happens. But if that's the case, that's a bit of a downer and something to think about when you're gonna buy this watch. I think the main reason might be because it's gonna be about the same price anyway, so why not just get a brand new watch versus paying maybe $250 for a glass, like most likely. And the glass is not exactly weak or fragile or anything because I hit it pretty often with my desk, once in a while against the wall if I'm walking near one, or maybe the doorknob if I'm walking near it. So I have knocked it a bit and it hasn't broken on me. It hasn't even gotten a scratch yet. So it is pretty durable, just, like a regular phone screen, just maybe a little bit weaker because of the dome shape. It's not gonna just break on you. It's not gonna, I wouldn't expect it to be a major issue, but if it does happen, it might not be a fun experience. Now I want to move on to the display and the interface. Obviously, the biggest difference here is the display size. It's now at 45mm, which that's more of the body size, I'm pretty sure, not the screen size. So it's gonna be a smaller screen than that. And it has a sizable border, but the way Pixel designed it, it kind of falls off the edge anyway, so you can't really tell the borders there unless you have like the flashlight app on or something. But either way, it's still going to be about a 4mm difference from the 41 to the 44 because the border size is going to be about the same anyway. So it's still going to be a much larger screen, and I noticed it's a lot easier to read, a lot easier to interact with. It's still not going to be like a phone obviously, but it's a lot better. And 45 doesn't really look all that big on the wrist. It might sound big, but it doesn't seem that bad to me. The other thing about the screen is that the brightness has pretty much doubled from previous generations, and it's now at 2000 nits, which is going to be very bright and at the point where you're going to see it pretty easily outdoors in direct sunlight. I've had the two previous watches, the original and Watch 2, and I never really had a difficult time seeing them in the sun, but I do see this one quite a bit more clearly than the other ones. Just the extra brightness really helps. And they also increase the resolution to keep it pretty much exactly the same on the density. So it's 320 pixels per inch of pixel density on the screen, and that's going to be good enough for a watch in my opinion. And taking a glance at the interface, it's largely the same. There's not much in terms of differences. There's going to be like watch faces that it's possible might even come to the previous generations. And there was another difference that was a bit more noticeable than the other ones, and that's the way that the apps are listed. Now it's 3 rows and it's the icons only, but you do have the option to go back to what I was using in the Pixel Watch 2 and the original Pixel Watch of the listed version or the listed apps. So you can't toggle between those two, but I think that the three apps side by side with the larger icons fits the larger 45 millimeter better. And it might even work with a smaller one too, but I haven't really been able to try that one out. Now I want to move on to the performance and the battery life. So I've been using the Watch 3 for some time now, and I've yet to experience any sort of stuttering whatsoever. The watch is very fluid, and I know watches aren't going to have that much power, they don't have that much RAM, and they don't even have that much storage, just enough to be a useful watch. So I'm not expecting too much from them, and for the tasks that I use them for, like monitoring my fitness or heartbeat, heart rate, and telling time, maybe even replying to messages and picking up phone calls, it works perfectly. There's no hiccups whatsoever, and it's nice and smooth. I really like the UI of Google. Now with the battery, it's a much bigger difference, and I would say it's exceptional on this watch. Basically, the only thing I don't do with the watch is sleep tracking, because I kind of found it to be useless. All sleep tracking tells me is that I'm sleeping horribly, and I already know that because I wake up tired, so it's not helping me at all. So I gave up on that, and instead I charge it overnight instead of finding a gap in the day to charge it, and it's much simpler, less of a headache for me. I would do that with any watch at this point. But using a watch from when I wake up to when I go to bed, it's just never near low on battery life. For the most part, it's above 50% by the time I put it back to charge. And on days that I don't track any exercises, or if I take off my watch for like an hour just to give my wrist a breather while I'm typing, I would end the day in the mid 60s or low 70s just by giving it that much of a break. So there's zero risk, at least in my experience, of running out of battery with this watch. I mean, I don't know, maybe if you track exercises for like 3-4 hours a day, that could be an issue. But I mean, my walks and cardio goes for maybe an hour to an hour and a half. And I haven't even been close to, draining the battery on this watch yet. Now let's talk about my experience with the watch for the past month or so. There aren't too many things to complain about. I mean, you get great connection with other Pixel phones. You get great communication between the phone and the watch. It's very comfortable to wear. It doesn't feel heavy. It has great battery life. It's fluid and smooth. It's just a lot of good things about it. But there are a couple of things that I think they could improve on. The first thing is actually something that was changed on the Watch 2 and carried over to the Watch 3. And that's the speed at which the watch wakes up when you spin the crown, to be able to look at your notifications or look at the menu up top. And to me, it's just too slow. One, it takes about a full spin almost, it feels like, before it even wakes up. And then you have to give it like a split second before it lets you scroll to look at the notifications. I think this one is just not sensitive enough, and I don't like having to, go through so much just to wake it up. Obviously, if you twist the wrist, it's gonna wake up already, so that's definitely beneficial, but that's not always the case when I'm trying to look at the watch. Sometimes I'm already in that position, so it's not gonna wake up unless I move the crown or do something. And it's just, it needs to be a little bit more sensitive in my opinion. The second thing is that the speaker still clips a little bit on the max volume. This was a bigger issue with the original Pixel Watch and has been improved, but it's still at a point where I can't max out the volume without hearing the clipping of the person talking to me. With the Samsung Watch 6, I was maxed out with the volume and it sounded as clear as if you had it halfway. And that's the way it's gotta be, because watches don't have the biggest speakers, and obviously they're not meant for it. But there are situations in which you're gonna have to max that out, and you don't wanna have that distortion or that clipping sound when you're talking to someone. It's definitely not as bad as the original Pixel Watch. I mean, you can still max that out and it's not gonna be a bad distortion. It's only like, I think it might be like the bass when someone talks a little bit louder, or on some words that are a bit louder, might clip a little bit, so it's not terrible, but it is there. And I know not everyone's gonna have a situation in which you're gonna have to use a max volume, but I use my watch sometimes when I'm driving, and when I'm on the highway, it's loud enough where I kind of have to max out the volume on a watch. And it's just gonna provide a better experience if I can max out the speaker and, not hear that sound. So overall, the product is great and headed in the right direction at least. My favorite things are the larger and brighter screen, and then obviously the connectivity with a Pixel phone, because it's the best kind of communication that you can get. And let's not forget that the battery life is much better, and it's at a point where I don't even have to worry about it anymore. I don't even look at the battery life anymore because I know it's not going to be anywhere near drained by the end of the day. But it's not all perfect yet. It still needs some improvements, mainly with the speaker, and I think the lift to wake could be a little bit quicker as well. And when it comes to Pixel users, this might be the best watch experience you can have, because it it works so well within the same ecosystem. Going cross-platform, you might lose a few features, so something to think about. But as always, do your own research to make sure that it falls in line with what you need and what you want. If you are interested in buying the Pixel Watch 3, I do have an affiliate link in the description. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.